Greetings. This is Justin Allen with the Elite Nurse Practitioner. Welcome to the Elite Nurse Practitioner Show, a podcast dedicated to nurse practitioner entrepreneurism and achieving financial freedom, where I talk directly with nurse practitioners who need help. Listen up, our market is saturated. Jobs can be scarce. We are underpaid. We are undervalued. We are taken advantage of by the sharks within the healthcare system. And frankly, screw that. Sick of it. And it's time for a change. And listen, I'm here to help make that happen. We are powerful. We can forge a path where we are in control of our career and ultimately our financial and personal well-being. You do not need to submit to healthcare administrators and your doctor overlords. You do not have to take the measly salary. You do not have to work 50 to 60 hours a week. There is a different way, and I'm here to show you that path. This podcast is raw and unfiltered. I have not talked with the nurse practitioners in this podcast prior to the call outside of an email exchange to schedule the episode. What you're about to listen to is a consultation session between a nurse practitioner and myself. It is real, it is unscripted, it is unplanned, and I have no idea what we're going to talk about. Anything and everything can happen during our conversation. The nurse practitioners in these episodes are struggling with an issue in their professional or financial life, and they have reached out to me for help. My goal is to help the nurse practitioner with actionable advice that will enhance and improve their professional, business, and financial life. My other goal is to hopefully help my nurse practitioner sisters and brothers build a more productive, powerful, and free life. So I hope the content and information within these podcast episodes does just that. All right, onto the episode.
Hello, everyone. Today we'll be talking to Abby, who is a registered nurse who graduates FNP school soon. Currently, she's working in home care as a registered nurse while she finishes school. Her goal after graduating is to open her own practice, focusing on functional medicine, hormone replacement therapy, and weight loss. She's needing help deciding if she should dive into her business after graduation or get work experience, the considerations of starting the practice, and how to navigate the collaborator requirements in her state. Hey, Abby, how are you?
I'm good, Justin. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for hopping on here. So,
Good.
tell us
Thanks
about
for
yourself.
having me.
Yeah, for sure. So you are a registered nurse finishing
Yep.
up FNP school. So I guess just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So I have been a nurse for about 6 years or so. I'm pretty young. I'm only 28. So I started FNP school pretty soon after being a nurse. For the past 5 years or so, I've been traveling. I've been doing contracts. So kind of all across the U.S. in a bunch of different, fields, from ER to neuro to rehab. And then most recently, I'm in a contract right now for home care. I've been there for about a year, so I'm doing that full time while I'm simultaneously working towards my FNP degree. So that should be, if all things go as planned, that should be done in 5 or 6 months or so.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what I did. I became a registered nurse and then went straight into FNP school while I worked. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's not bad. I mean, it's crazy hectic, but, I would not want to do anything else. So.
Well, it's almost done, right? I mean, you got 5 or 6 more months and you're done.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Home stretch.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess the big question for, that I have in my mind here is, what made you want to go straight into entrepreneurship, just right out of school?
Basically I worked for a little bit more of my background. I got my bachelor's in exercise science before nursing. So I did a little bit of personal training then before nursing school, a little bit in that realm, and then decided to go to nursing school. I did like an accelerated program there. I worked for about a year in a sports medicine clinic. And first of all, the pay was terrible. So that was kind of the driving factor for me to be like, what's next? What can I do right now? So I looked at contracts and started doing that. But I just like being my own boss. I don't like dealing with the management structures and I would just rather be in control of when I work, how I work, and all that. So that's kind of why I jumped into traveling, because it gave me that opportunity.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Being your own boss is the only way to do it. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
So what sorts of travel gigs you've been doing? I'm just curious.
What kind of travel?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've done neuro, I've done ED. I've done like acute rehab. I've done sports medicine. And then my most recent one, I've been here in this contract for a year and a half now. I've just kind of kept extending. And that's home care, which have found kind of the most freedom and flexibility to do while I'm going to school. So it's worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I hear you. I did home health too while going to FMP school. It was
Yeah.
it's super easy. You're kind of your own boss. You're just out on the road doing your own thing.
Yeah, it's nice. It's like you're just driving around and, you can make your own schedule and fit things in when you need to. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, cool. So you finished school in about 5 or 6 months, and are you wanting to jump into this as soon as you graduate? Are you wanting to work a little bit? I know, before we started the call, you said you didn't know if you should dive into it right away or get some
Yeah.
work experience. So what are your thoughts there?
So that's kind of my crossroad right now. So there's part of me that wants to jump right in and do that and like start right now. Like I've purchased your courses. I've been doing those. I've listened to all these podcasts. I've been, making a list of what I need to get done in order to, potentially open my own practice. But, then there's this, other side that's like, well, maybe I really should get, a few years under my belt before I dive into this. The things that I do want to do are pretty like low liability. They're not like I'm not trying to treat acute patients or anything. Like I would focus strictly on, functional medicine, hormone replacement, a complementary weight loss program as well. So that's kind of where I'm stuck. Like, I don't know if having experience would be helpful, even if it's not in the kind of niche thing I want to do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, my opinion about this is if you want to do these low liability things, I don't think it's really necessary to get a lot of experience as a nurse practitioner.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think weight loss is very complicated. I don't think hormone replacement therapy is very complicated.
Right.
Functional medicine can be complicated. It really depends on how deep, down the rabbit hole you want to go with that.
Sure.
So I don't think you need really that much experience to do these things because it's pretty simple. I found managing someone's diabetes or hypertension to be more difficult than managing their hormones, to be perfectly honest with you. And weight loss is super simple. But like I said, functional medicine can be a little bit complicated. So I guess my question for you is, the big thing here is, how comfortable are you looking at labs?
I mean, pretty comfortable. Obviously there are things that still catch me. And I'm not an expert by any means, but I know that I would stay in my scope. Like I'd stay in my lane for things. If I felt uncomfortable with something, I am confident in my, capability of, saying like, I don't know, I can't treat this or, refer you out to somebody. So yeah, like I said, I'm working on all those courses. I've got the functional certification course as well. So I hope to be done that as well by the time I graduate.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that for most nurse practitioners getting out of school that want to start their own practice, as long as you understand what sick is and what sick isn't, right? And you can basically read some lab work and understand what these, what different lab parameters mean. Even simple things like an elevated bilirubin or, maybe someone's, white blood cell count, it's 3.1 or something. Like just these little nuances that you'll see within lab work and stuff. I mean, as long as you're comfortable with those sorts of things, then I don't think there's really much of a problem with you starting your own practice when you get out, because if you do hormone replacement therapy and weight loss predominantly, if that's going to be your, some of your big services, you're going to be doing pretty comprehensive lab work on some of these people, and things will come up on the lab work that will throw a wrench into things. I'd say about 80% of the time, the blood work's going to be pretty consistent, pretty normal. It's really a no-brainer. Anyone could do it. It's just the
Hmm.
20% that's going to be one of those things like, what should I do in these cases? So like,
Right.
if you're going to start someone on hormone replacement therapy, for example, and you do a lipid panel on them, for example,
Yep.
and their LDL is 190 and their HDL is 25 and their triglycerides are 300 or 400, their
Right.
total cholesterol is 280 or something like that. What do you do in that circumstance? Do you start them on the hormone replacement therapy? Do you
Hmm.
factor in the cardiovascular risks, associated with their lipid panel? Are you comfortable with treating them and then also maybe treating their cholesterol or something like that? So I guess it's just really comes down
Right.
to how comfortable are you with seeing abnormals, and then do you know what to do if there is truly an abnormal? Like, what
Hmm.
drives me crazy is that a lot of nurse practitioners, um, they will see a patient
Hmm.
and someone's creatinine will come back at 1.5 and they freak out and send them to nephrology, and it's like, it's a
Right.
total fucking waste of time. Why are
Right.
you doing that? You know what I mean? Like, they haven't
Yeah.
seen enough labs to be like, okay, 1.5 isn't that big of a deal. We could check it a
Right.
month from now and probably be normal. You know what I mean? So I
Okay.
guess that would just be something that you would have to answer yourself. You know what I mean? I mean,
Mhm.
you worked in the ER. You see blood work all the time. So
Yeah, I mean, I
yeah,
feel comfortable with it. It's
okay,
just, things that you're talking about, like with special cases. Like, I'm sure, you know, there are things that I could be more comfortable with.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, the way I want to practice is like, I'm really focused on like longevity and like health optimization. So, like, not like you go in and you see your typical provider and they order all these bullshit tests. And it's like, they're not telling you anything of like a greater picture of your health. Like, I want to check like fasting insulin. I want to check like things that will actually give us like a greater picture of like cellular function.
yeah,
Um, so like that's kind of where I'm passionate about. Like peptides, I want to like do those and introduce those as like a conjunct therapy. Um, so like I get really excited thinking about it. It's just that kind of imposter syndrome in the back of your head where it's like, okay, are you really? And I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want to
yeah,
dive in and bite off more than I can chew because this is serious. So
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so I think that as long as you are comfortable with knowing when to put the brakes on, for
Hmm.
what you're doing and send the
Yeah.
patient out to somewhere else, as long as you're
Mhm.
comfortable with that, then I guess my advice to you is I think it's probably okay with starting your practice right out of school. Okay.
Okay.
Like, if you
Yeah.
know what you can be doing and what you can't be doing, as long as
Hmm.
you understand the differences there and when to send a patient on, when
Hmm.
to politely decline accepting a patient, for example, you know what I mean? As long as you know
Yeah.
those things, then I say go for it. I don't think you need really a whole lot of experience. Now,
Hmm.
um, what I do recommend a lot of the times, if a new grad NP wants to get some experience
Yep.
before they dive into their business,
Hmm.
um, I would highly advise working in an emergency department
Yep.
because you see everything,
Yeah.
and you are doing blood work on every single patient coming through that door pretty much. Like, you
Right.
get comfortable really quick
Hmm.
with blood work, diagnostic tests. You know what's sick, you know what's bullshit. Like, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like, you understand that stuff. And
Hmm.
so I think I went from like here as a nurse practitioner to here after working in the emergency department as an NP for just a year. Like, within
Oh wow.
that year,
Yeah.
I learned so much and became so comfortable with doing advanced workups on people and that sort of a thing that
Hmm.
that's what I would recommend. So if you go into this, you finish NP school, starting your business right from the get go ahead and do it. Sure. It probably won't be that busy at first. You probably still will need
Right.
a job. Yeah.
Hmm.
So if you're going to get a job, see if you can get a job working in the emergency department 2 or 3 days a week. And then the other days of the week, you focus on your practice. If you do
Right.
that for a year or two, you're going to come out being like a rock star. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Um, how, just out of curiosity, how many years were you working in like a practice before you opened your own?
So I graduated NP school in 2013,
Hmm.
and I started my first practice I mean, really started to practice in, late 2018, 2019 is when it really started kind of really scaling.
Hmm.
So I was an MP for, about 5 years, give or
Hmm.
take, before I
It,
really dove into it.
yeah. And I know you said that the ER was obviously a great experience. But other than the ER, do you feel like the fields you worked in were helpful or not really?
Yeah, I worked ER and urgent care predominantly as an
Okay.
NP. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not really. I mean, just
Okay.
getting comfortable with lab work,
Hmm.
seeing lots of vital signs, seeing lots of patients. I mean, I've
Yeah.
seen tens of thousands of people,
Hmm.
in my career as an NP.
Yeah.
Um, I probably saw 10,000 patients at least before I started my first practice. So
Okay.
like I got comfortable seeing people. I know what's sick and what's not, you know what I mean? So
Right.
was the experience from the ER and the urgent care applicable to men's health? Not really.
Hmm.
Um, but I knew what to look for in lab work essentially, or if I see some abnormal vital signs, I don't freak out when someone comes in with a blood pressure of 180 over 120. I'm all like, oh my god, go to the ER.
Right.
Come on, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, like here's some lisinopril. Come back and come
Yeah.
back in 2 days. Let's recheck your blood pressure.
Sure.
Yeah, so stuff like that, pretty much. So it just makes you more comfortable. So
Yeah.
if you want to get into functional medicine or men's health or hormone replacement therapy or weight loss and that sort of a thing, like what
Yeah.
experience would be good for you? I mean,
Hmm.
probably just general primary care probably would be one of the better things for you. But
Right.
if you want to accelerate that, work in the ER. Like you
Okay.
will just see, I mean, you'll go over 2 or 3 dozen lab panels a
Hmm.
day in a 12-hour shift. You know what I mean? Like you get
Right.
really, really good at that stuff really quick.
Okay. That's good advice.
Yeah.
I mean, with home care, I'm like technically a case manager. So, I mean, I see like 40 people a week and I'm doing like head to toe comprehensive assessments and like I'm their main source of contact with the providers. Like I'm, telling the providers like what labs they should get and this and that and like their vital signs and like I'm
Yeah.
very like comfortable with that part.
Okay,
Um
good. Yeah.
yeah. Um
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as an RN, I was in home health too, and I would
yeah.
completely agree with you.
Mhm.
Being an RN in home health
Mhm.
teaches you how to be independent.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's essentially like every time you lay eyes on the patient in their home, you're responsible. So if you miss something, it's good experience, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, 100%. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so I would say, yeah, you could dive into it if you want. As long as you
Okay.
just understand, what to punt, basically.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, what else? There was so just to pick your brain a little bit, there's a few colleagues of mine that like have wanted to kind of collaborate with a business model or plan. One's a chiropractor, and another is like a strength coach who wants to open a gym. Um, and they want to kind of bring me in and do that all together. From what I'm hearing in your podcasts, you probably would advise against that. Yeah. Okay. That's my gut feeling. I just wanted to ask.
So when it comes to a partnership, you really got to answer this question: what
Yeah.
value is this person bringing in here that I can't provide? Like,
Right. Right. If anything,
like
I feel like I'd be more beneficial to them.
correct, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I do partner with people with
Okay.
businesses. I never give them equity, but I will partner with them, with some production or something like that.
Okay.
Um, but I would only truly partner with someone from an equity standpoint by actually giving them a percentage of the business. I would
Hmm.
only do that if they're bringing in something that I can't.
Okay.
Those people that you're just telling me, I don't think they're going to bring in anything that's going to make it worthwhile to give them equity in the business.
Yeah. And just I feel like it would be easier to start on your own and then kind
Yeah.
of see where you're at. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it would just be better just to contract them out.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you. What about starting costs? So, what would you say like is a good ballpark for that?
Where are you located at?
I'm in Maine.
Maine?
And the
Well,
place that, like, the area I'm looking at for this potential practice, is a small town. It has like probably 9,000 people. But then in the summers, it explodes like to 80,000 people.
yeah.
There's really nothing in that town or the neighboring towns that does anything like this. There's a city maybe 30 minutes north with a population of like 70,000 people, and there are a few practices there. But like there's nothing south of that, which I think could be a really good opportunity.
I mean, I would agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had people on this show that, are in a town of 10,000 people that are just absolutely killing it.
Yeah.
So, if you don't have any competition, then chances are you'll probably do pretty well.
Hmm.
Um, what's rent like, I guess? Have you called some places up to see how much, somewhere in a little shopping mall would be?
Yeah, it's not cheap. I mean, we're probably looking at, I mean, the cheaper end would be probably 2,000.
Okay.
So we're not like crazy expensive, but also it'd be really hard to find kind of, one of those like $1,000 a month places.
Finding something for $1,000 a month anymore is gonna be pretty much impossible.
Right, impossible most places.
Yeah, unless you want to be
Yeah.
in a shithole with, bums outside and homeless
Right,
walking
right.
around. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, $2,000, I mean, that's probably gonna be about going rate. It's probably pretty average.
Okay.
Yeah. So with that said, startup costs, these kind of things don't really cost a whole lot of money to start,
Hmm.
really. Um, you're gonna want to do a hybrid practice. Like you're gonna
Hmm.
want to do in person and telemed. I wouldn't do just
Hmm.
100% telemed, for example.
Right.
It tends to be a little bit harder to scale something like that from a marketing perspective. So, um, so with a hybrid practice, you're gonna need to furnish it. You're gonna need to do all that kind of stuff, get it all set up, etc.
Hmm.
Um, and my recommendation is to have at least 3 months of expenses in the bank. So you want to have at least 3 months of
Hmm.
rent, 3 months of utilities, etc.
Yep.
Um, so, so I'd say startup costs for your business would probably be $10,000 to $15,000,
Okay.
probably. It's really not
Okay.
that much.
Yeah. I've been pretty fortunate with contract work. It's pays pretty good. So I have a pretty good, you know, nest egg for that set away. Um,
Yeah, if you have 15 or $20,000 set aside, you should be more than fine.
okay. Okay, that's
Yeah,
good to know.
yeah.
Um,
It shouldn't cost you more than 20 grand. It really shouldn't, as long
okay.
as you're pretty frugal about it. Buy used furniture, buy used decorations. Don't, you don't have to
Yeah.
go balls to the wall here and buy a bunch of brand new stuff.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. You can get vital signs machines off eBay for a couple $100. You
Yep.
know, you
Hmm.
don't need exam tables,
Hmm.
really. I mean, you can just have a chair that just reclines.
Okay.
Like,
Right.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's what I've done. Like, just have a chair that kind of reclines back a little bit. Okay, palpate their abdomen, listen to their heart, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
don't go crazy. You don't need a bunch of ridiculous, expensive medical equipment, basically.
Okay. And in the space, would you recommend just like one exam room? Like, or additional rooms in the back or anything? Or,
The optimal setup for a little niche practice like this
yeah.
is one or two exam rooms is really all you need. Okay, and one of those exam rooms can also be your office, essentially, right?
Okay.
So, like at my men's health clinic, we have two exam rooms. One exam room is my office, so I have a desk, and then
Hmm.
patients sit there, and that's the consultation. And right, I got a little chair, exam table kind of a thing,
Yeah.
and like that's where 95% of everything happens is just in that one room, right? And then we have another exam room, but that's going to be for like injections, or if we're going to do like a procedure or collect lab work, that kind of thing. We
Okay.
use that other exam room for, and then a storage room. You need somewhere to store meds and supplies and that sort of a thing.
Hmm.
A little lobby waiting area, a place
Hmm.
for a receptionist to sit, a bathroom. That's
Hmm.
really about it. Um, that all can be done within 1,000 square feet. You really don't need more than that. It's just not
Okay.
necessary for a little cash-based practice. It's not.
Yep.
All right. I hope everyone's enjoying the episode so far. I just wanted to take a quick break to thank everyone listening and also give a big thank you to all of my social media followers and email subscribers. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to our email list at www.elitenp.com and make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Email subscribers will receive updates on new weekly podcast episodes, multiple weekly articles we publish, new courses, and everything else related to helping you succeed. Remember, all Elite Nurse Practitioner courses are designed to help you build a niche practice, increase your financial strength, and to break free from the rat race. If I can break free and that other countless nurse practitioners can break free, then so can you. Additionally, please share this podcast with your other nurse practitioner sisters and brothers out there. The more NPs that venture out on their own, the stronger our profession will become. Now, let's get back to the episode.
So I've heard you talk a little bit about like collaborators. Because I need one for the first, it's such a stupid rule, but it's 24 months of practice in Maine, which, I mean, it's not terrible, but it's still something I'd have to navigate. So Indeed, or, the collaborator website that you've linked, you find people have pretty good success? Or is there anything I should watch out for collaborators, or things I should look for?
Yeah. You will probably get a cheaper collaborator by just looking for one yourself.
Okay.
So on Indeed or ZipRecruiter or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
See if you can utilize maybe some resources that, you maybe established as an RN. If you know any docs that would be happy to do it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt, but how would you go about that? Would you just simply ask them?
Yeah, literally just go walk up to them and be like, hey, I'm starting this little practice.
Yeah.
I need a collaborator for the first 24 months.
Right.
This is all you have to do, based off of whatever the rules are in Maine, sign off on this mini charts or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And, I'd pay you $750 a month or whatever it is.
Yep.
And just basically approach them that way. Tell them this is going to be a brand new business. So it's going to be slow for the first few months. So,
Right.
Can we work out a deal where maybe I just pay you a couple $100 a month for the first few months until business picks up? Once I hit maybe 50 patients or something, then maybe we can bump it up to the $750 a month, that sort of a thing.
Okay.
Yeah, so it shouldn't really be that hard to find someone. I mean, you'll probably, if you post an ad on Indeed for collaborators, you're going to get people who are going to, they'll respond to you, and you just say, this is how much I'm going to pay. It's pretty easy, really hands off. You basically just have to sit back and do really a whole lot of nothing. And you get paid for it.
Yeah.
So I would probably go with more of that resource versus using using an organization that does it, because they're going to be a little bit more expensive. And they probably won't work with you as much during the initial startup phase, because, business is going to be slow for the first couple months, just going to be. Yeah, so that's kind of how I would, approach that. In terms of what to look out for, make sure you just find someone who's cool,
Yeah. Right.
like you don't want to,
Yeah.
you don't want an asshole, basically, right? Like you don't want to have someone who's just going to make your life a pain in the ass. So try to find someone who's very laid back, who's pretty cool, who will kind of let you do what you want, more or less, and that would be available for a question here or there, sort of a thing. Trust your gut with it, basically. Like if you kind of get these bad vibes that this person's going to make my life a pain in the ass, don't hire them. Find someone else. You know what I mean? Like trust your gut feeling as you talk to these people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Going off that, I know that you said that you hired a medical assistant like right out the get-go for your practice. Do you feel like that was worth it?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, like you would do that again.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it allowed me to not have to be so much in the business. I mean, I had someone there 4 or 5 days a week. I mean, they would take payments, they would schedule patients. Like I didn't have to do a lot of that busy work, right?
Okay.
In your case, if there's no competition in your area and you're pretty confident this is going to be something that's going to take off pretty quick,
yeah,
then it might not be a bad idea to have an MA and just be open 3 days a week. just hire someone and just be like, this is gonna be just kind of a part-time gig. I'll pay you $20 an hour or whatever. And hours are from 8 to 6 or whatever, 10 hours a day. And just be open 3 days a week and see if you can find someone who'd be down for that.
Okay.
If it's going to be busy, though, I think it might be worthwhile to do that. You can certainly do it yourself at first,
Yeah.
but just be aware it's going to be a lot of work. So if you're working as an NP in the ER, for example, if you're working 2 or 3 days a week somewhere else, then you'll probably want to have someone in the office there to answer phone calls for walk-ins and that sort of a thing.
Okay.
If you aren't going to be working, then if you want to be there 4 or 5 days out of the week, you probably really won't need anyone for the first couple months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What are your thoughts about 1099 jobs? Like, do you think that those are beneficial? Like, if I were to start something like that simultaneously?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I
Okay.
would never work W-2 ever. Like I would never work a W-2 job ever again.
Okay.
Like ever.
Yeah.
So the advantage of having a 1099 job as an NP, right?
Yeah.
So if you work 1099, let's say you can get a 1099 gig in the ER, for example,
Yeah.
2 or 3 days out of the week, they pay $80 an hour or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You can have that 1099 job pay your practice's LLC. So they don't pay you. They would
Okay.
just pay your practice's LLC itself. So that
Mm,
money lands in that LLC account and it'll
okay.
be considered income for the business. And then
Mm-hmm.
you can use that income on business expenses within your practice. So let's say you go pick up an ER shift, make $1,000. That $1,000 gets, goes into your LLC account
Right.
and you need to pay rent that month.
Yeah.
And $1,000 just pays the rent, for example, tax free.
Okay.
If it's W-2, you're going to pay taxes on that money first,
Yep.
and then you put it in your business account, so you've just lost 30%. So if you can
Okay.
skip that, just be the 1099, just have the money go tax free into your
Okay.
business account, and then you can use that money for business expenses.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
That's great to know.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's what I've always done. I mean,
Yeah. No,
even,
that makes
even to this day, I still do that. I do some
yeah.
contract work here and there, not necessarily as an NP,
Yeah.
more as a consultant, but yeah, that's why I just haven't paid my business, and I just use that money for whatever expense I want, through my business. So,
Right.
yep.
Right. That's brilliant. Okay. Um, what else? How about EMRs? Like, do you have one that you like the best, or is it just kind of trial and error or whatever for
Yeah,
you?
it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't
Okay.
really matter that much. Yeah, I mean, these people. eh, I mean, if you're gonna go with one, I mean, OptiMantra is gonna be a good, solid choice for any kind of niche practice. It basically has
Yeah.
everything you need within it.
Yeah. Okay.
I still use Simple Practice for my men's health clinic.
Okay.
We've been using it now for 6, 7 years or whatever it's been. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we're just lazy. We just don't want to transfer it over to another EMR. It
Yeah.
works,
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So don't get too hung up on the EMR thing. Like
Okay.
just don't get hung up on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess if you had to give, if you were in my position, like way back when, what would you say you could work on like right now to get going? Like I have probably 6 solid months to do some serious work if
Yeah.
I wanted to, which I do. What would you prioritize?
Well, obviously, make sure you're going to pass the A&P exam, right?
Yeah, right, that's top on the list for sure.
Right. Make sure that's your priority, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly, it's not that hard.
Yeah.
It
I'm
really
I'm
isn't.
not too worried about it. I'm just like, you're
Right.
doing the work. I mean, that's how I felt with nursing. I'm like, I didn't study at all. I just took it. I'm like, you're doing all the things you need to be doing. You're gonna do fine.
Same.
Yeah.
I didn't
I'm like, I
study that much.
can't stress any more about it because
Yeah. Yeah. The
Mhm.
A&P, I took it a week after I graduated. I didn't
Yeah.
wait at all. Like I literally graduated and within, I don't even know if it was even a week. It might have been like 5 days or something like that. Like I graduated and I
Really?
took it. Like I just wanted to be, I just wanted to, I wanted to be over
Okay.
with. So
Yes.
I graduated, I took my AANP,
Yeah.
passed, and I'm not joking you, within 3 or 4 weeks after graduating, I was working.
Okay.
And most people that graduate with me were still studying.
Yeah.
Like, come on. It is
Yeah.
not like you just finished your last semester. All this shit should still be pretty fresh on your mind. Just get it over with.
Right. Like, how much are
Right.
you realistically gonna absorb in a few weeks? It's like,
No, you're not, right? So
yeah.
basically, so my recommendation for you with
Okay.
that is, your last semester, these courses, just really absorb as much information as you can.
Okay.
Study for your final exams. That information is going to be fresh on your mind. Schedule your AANP exam. Skip the
Hmm.
ANCC. Do the AANP. Okay, there's no
Yeah.
theory involved with it. AANP, literally schedule it within a week of graduating and just get it over with. Okay?
Okay.
All that information is fresh on your mind. So what I would do if I was you is the last month of your, just the last month of the semester,
Yeah.
focus all your energies on studying for the ANP. Do Fitzgerald, do,
Yeah.
APA, whatever.
Okay.
Do all that, take your final exam, take the ANP, and be done with it. Okay. So the last month, really focus on studying on that. But in between now and then, though,
Yeah.
if you really want to get good at, if you want to get out of school and
Mhm.
be the most competent provider that you can be,
Yeah.
I would highly advise reading a lot of medical school grade physiology books and stuff. Now, not like a really
Yeah.
dense, not like a really dense, big old giant book. Buy the Rapid Guides. I think it's called Rapid Guides, and it's
Yeah.
for the medical boards basically. But it's like straight to the point, clinical, boom, boom, boom. This is what you need to know about this condition, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
Read up a lot. Read up on that kind of stuff, so you really understand how to work through clinical processes.
Yeah.
And then with the hormone replacement therapy, the functional medicine, that sort of a thing,
Hmm.
I would be a little cautious spending a lot of time learning that stuff
Okay.
because you only have so much space in your mind right now.
Right. I know. I'm trying to do it all. It's just like,
Yeah, and
yeah.
so how you approach a patient from a functional medicine standpoint
Hmm.
versus the standpoint that the AANP is going to require for the exam is going to be vastly different.
Right.
And so I don't want you confusing yourself
Right.
by going into your AANP certification exam with a bunch of functional medicine knowledge and
Hmm.
being like, okay, wait a second here. What's by
Yeah.
the
That's
book
true.
and what's functional med? You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I would just be a little cautious on really diving real deep into the
Okay.
functional medicine, the hormone replacement therapy, that sort of thing, so close to graduation.
Okay.
So if you're still 6 months out from graduating, then sure, the next 3 or 4 months, take the functional medicine course, take the hormone replacement therapy courses, get a good general idea of
Hmm.
how to do those things, okay? But then the last month or two of NP school, focus on the ANP,
Okay.
focus on just getting done your exams and just, finishing it up, buttoning
Yeah.
it up, that sort of a thing. In terms of business startup goes, you can form the LLC, you can get, you can create your website, you can build out some of the basic things like that, right?
Yeah.
But I wouldn't, I wouldn't sign for a lease on a building. I wouldn't start furnishing a clinic. I wouldn't do
Okay.
any of that
Yeah.
until
You
you
pass.
actually have your license.
Right.
Yeah. So
Okay.
chances are you're not going to open, I mean, to be realistic here, you're not going to open up a month after graduation. That's probably not going to happen, right?
Right.
It'll probably take 3 or 4 months after graduation before you actually open the door
Okay.
because you need to apply for your DEA, you need to apply
Yeah.
for your state license, you need to apply for you need to get these things first, right?
Right.
Pass your AANP, et cetera. So
Hmm.
get all that stuff done first, make
Okay.
sure it's out of the way and completed, and then dive in, getting the lease, getting the office, et cetera. But by the
Okay.
time that happens, your LLC, your bank account, your website, your EMR, those sorts of things should be done. You're not going to
Hmm.
be able to create accounts though with compounding pharmacies and medical suppliers and stuff until you get your MPI license, your DEA number. So you're not going to be able to do any of this stuff anyways until after you get all those licenses regardless. So
Right.
you
Okay.
are kind of limited with what you can do between now and then.
Okay. Well, that
Yeah.
makes me feel a little bit better that, I'm not totally behind if it's something I want to do. Yeah, basically just wanted to, see if that's a completely crazy idea to jump right into it. So that's kind of the overall, topic I wanted to talk about.
If I've thought about this a lot, and
Yeah.
I've told other people this too, I seriously feel like I probably could have started my men's health clinic right after I graduated.
Yeah. Well,
My
that's
medical cannabis clinic, that would have been super easy. That's no problem. But,
yeah, pretty
but
straightforward.
men's health, I honestly feel like I probably could have did that within 3 or 4 months after graduating. It's not that hard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, yeah. I mean, consider myself pretty competent. I'm not like, again, I wouldn't do things I'm not comfortable with. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. What else?
Yeah. I mean, if you're not comfortable with something, just don't see it.
Yeah.
I tell people, I get emails a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who has a men's health patient, for example, or a weight loss patient, and they'll be like,
Yeah.
this was their blood pressure when they came in.
Mm-hmm.
Their A1C is 8.9. Their cholesterol panel looks like shit.
Mm-hmm.
Should I start this patient on testosterone replacement therapy? No.
Right.
No, it's not worth the risk. Like,
Risk.
it's not worth $150. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, you have to answer, you just have to be okay with juggling those kinds of things. Like, this
Mm-hmm.
is just too much risk. Now, do I believe that testosterone replacement therapy is going to cause a stroke or a heart attack? No, I don't. There's so
Mm-hmm.
many studies that show that there really isn't a correlation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the FDA actually just removed cardiovascular risks from the black box warning of testosterone. Like, they finally removed it. Thank God, right?
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
just there was a study done
Mm-hmm.
that I guess they finally were convinced, and it was placebo versus the testosterone group,
Yeah.
and it was cardiovascular events over a period of a year or something like that. And it was
Yeah.
exactly the same. There was no difference. Actually, the placebo group had a little bit of a higher incidence of
Yeah.
cardiovascular events. So, like, there isn't a correlation, right? But the risk, the medical legal risk there, right?
Right.
The last thing I want is to start someone on hormone replacement therapy or weight loss medication or whatever, and they
Mm-hmm.
have a heart attack or a stroke a month later, and some
Right.
smart ass lawyer says it was my fault.
Right.
When in fact they were going to have that fucking heart attack or stroke anyways. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. So you have to weigh the risks here,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Okay.
This patient is not worth my risk. It's just,
Mm-hmm.
you don't want a train wreck, basically. All right.
Right.
So you'll understand who those train wrecks are as you begin doing, like, over a period of a year, you'll understand who a train wreck is and who isn't. You
Okay.
don't want those train wrecks in your practice. They're too
Okay.
much other liability, right? And so
Mhm.
kindly just say, sorry, you're just not a good fit for our practice. Bye. You know what I mean? So
Right. Right.
get comfortable with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
For legality things, did you have like a lawyer look over consents and stuff first, like when you first started, or is that kind of like
Yeah, when I first got started, I did.
you did? Okay.
If you're
Uh,
if you're using the consents from the courses, you're good.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you wouldn't recommend anything further? No.
If you're
Okay.
using the consents from the courses,
Mm-hmm.
you should be good.
Okay.
I've had plenty of MPs tell me that they still had their lawyer review them, and their lawyer was like, "These are solved. There's nothing to change."
These are
So
fine.
don't waste your money.
Okay.
You don't need a lawyer.
Okay.
Don't waste your money. You just don't waste your money. You don't need
Okay.
one.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about like an accountant? Do you recommend getting that from the get-go too, or is that kind of like a later down the road thing?
No, I mean, you need an accountant to do your taxes and stuff.
Yeah.
As a business owner, I wouldn't be doing your taxes yourself. It just becomes too complicated, especially with a bunch of write-offs and stuff.
Right.
So you will need an accountant. Like, do you need an accountant as soon as you start? If you
Yeah.
graduate in 6 months from now, do you need an accountant within 3 months after graduation, after, starting your business? No, but you will
Right.
need an accountant when you file your taxes.
On tax season.
So
Yeah.
I guess the question is, do you need a bookkeeper?
Yeah. Right.
Keep
Okay.
your books. Yeah. You don't necessarily need one during the initial startup phase. When you create a Gusto or a QuickBooks account,
Mm-hmm.
you'll link that to your business credit card and your bank account, and all the transactions will come into it, and
Okay.
it should keep your books somewhat, accurate.
Okay.
That's fine for the first 6 months to a year of, being a practice owner.
Okay.
After that, it just becomes a very tedious activity to go through your books and do it yourself. And then after that, just hire a bookkeeper. It's 100, $200 a month or something. It's really not
Right.
much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. What else? What about your DNP? Did you ever decide, or did you ever think about going back for that? No.
I really hate talking about the DMP because there are a lot of people out there that have it, and I think it's total
Yeah,
bullshit.
I think it's a bunch of garbage, but
Garbage. Like,
I
okay,
feel
listen,
like I would rather
I'm
go
not,
back to school for something like
yeah, like no
totally.
disrespect to people who have a DNP. Absolutely no disrespect whatsoever.
Yeah, yeah.
I just personally don't see how an extra year of research and stuff makes me a better provider. It doesn't. Like,
Right.
I'm sorry, it doesn't. I'd rather spend that year practicing.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, yeah. Like, you will never find me going back and get my DMP. It'll never happen.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
blame you. Okay. Um, I think those are like the major questions I had right now. I know it's kind of like the infancy stage. I'm just, uh, thinking about everything. So I really appreciate you, hopping on here and letting me pick your brain a little bit.
No, you're welcome. Like, I mean, I'm really proud of you wanting to do this right from the get-go. I mean, I think more MPs should be doing this. So you starting at this age, I mean, you're 28 years old. I mean, you're still a baby. I mean, I'm 40. I turned 41 in a couple months. Like,
Yeah.
28 years old, you're still very, very young. And so use the energy that you have right now and just go all out. Like,
Yeah.
use that energy, because if you can start a business at your age, if you can start a business before the age of really about 40 years old, especially below the age of 35, you still have a lot of that energy.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can just funnel that into a business or whatever, by the time you're my age, you should be a millionaire.
Okay. Well, that's great to hear. A lot of time to fail too, if you think of it that way. I have a lot of,
And you're going to fail. Just
Yeah.
expect it. Okay? That's part of the process. If you don't fail,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're rare.
Yeah.
You're going to have failures along the way. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Your first business might fail. My first business failed, so you just learn from those failures. The key is you bounce back and you get on your feet and you do it again and you learn from those mistakes. It's just like with anything in life, you learn from your failures. If you don't, then you're going to make the mistake again.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, time spent doing that versus working for somebody else and just clocking in and clocking out. Like, I just don't want to do that.
No.
No.
Screw that.
Yeah. Screw that. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I like to end the episode with you asking me a question. You have a question for me or a curiosity?
Kind of along the lines of what we were talking about. I mean, you seem so confident in everything you do with, the podcast and your business and everything. Like, how do you deal with, probably not a lot now, but like starting out, how'd you deal with like imposter syndrome, or how'd you deal with, like self-doubts, or, just jumping into it? Did you ever have doubts, or were you just kind of like, I'm just going to go with it?
I mean, of course, everyone's going to have some doubts,
Yeah.
I mean, I have a lot of them, not really,
Okay.
I've been kind of the guy that's always, we go up to a cliff on the side of a lake or a river or whatever. I was the
You're
first one to
jumping.
say, fuck it and jump.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, I've kind of always been that way. And I find that being that way allows you to get over the initial fear very, very, very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
If you sit there and baby it,
Yeah.
then it's baby steps to get out of it, right?
Right.
But if you just say, fuck it and take the plunge and just
Yeah.
go, you get over it really, really quick, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's been my experience with just about everything in life. I mean, everything from approaching women to investing to starting a business or whatever.
Yeah.
Fuck it, just go and do it, right? And so yeah, I mean, of course I had doubts, You know,
Sure.
I mean, of course, there was times where I'd be laying in bed and being like, is this really what I want to do? Is this going to
Mm-hmm.
work? Is this going to fail? You know, what are people going to think of me, etc. I mean, of
Yeah.
course, I had those thoughts. It's natural. Everyone's going to. Okay.
Sure.
But the difference between, I guess, people who get past it and who don't are the ones who allow it to get to them.
Right.
You know, you have to realize that all that is just a little part of your monkey brain telling you
Right.
you shouldn't be doing this. This is a risk. You
Mm-hmm.
know, the status quo here is
It's
being
fear-based. Yeah.
threatened. Right. My little safe, cushy job over here that pays me, you know, $60 an hour with benefits and stuff. This is nice and safe over here. And that little
Right.
monkey brain's going to tell you this isn't going to work. This is going to fail.
Yeah.
Keep your cushy, safe thing. That's just an evolutionary trait that we, you know, over hundreds of thousands of years, this little monkey trait evolved to
Mm-hmm.
keep us out of danger, right?
Right.
And so, well, there's no danger really now. You're not going to walk outside and get eaten by a tiger, you know, or a saber-tooth
Yeah.
tiger or whatever. Like, that's not going to happen. And so
Mm-hmm.
you basically have to just tell yourself, shut up. I'm not going to listen to that voice. And I'm going to do what I want to do, right? And so
Yeah.
I never really had an imposter syndrome because I was just like, I'm just
Yeah.
going to do it. And you fake it till you make it, right? And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
so just don't listen to the voice. That's just
Yeah.
what I did. I was pretty confident about it. And, you know,
That's great.
I always told myself, what's the worst that's going to happen?
Yeah. Right.
You know, what's the worst that's going to happen? Like, if I start this business and it fails, what's the worst that's going to happen? I'm out $10,000
Mm-hmm.
and I wasted some time and I have to go back to work.
Yeah. And
That's
try
the
again.
worst. Right. Like, I'm
Right.
going to approach that girl over there. What's the worst that's going to happen? She's going to say no. Okay.
Shoot
Your
you down.
loss, honey. Whatever. Like, you know
Right.
what I mean? It's the exact same. It's just the same thing. Like, what's the worst case? What's
Yeah.
the worst thing that's going to happen?
Right.
Your brain will tell you, oh my God, the worst thing that's going to happen is I'm going to get sued. I'm going to lose my
Right.
license. I'm going to go bankrupt, blah, blah, blah. That, come on. It's
I
not going
know.
to happen. Like,
It's like I'm
yeah,
already like seeing like lawsuits. I'm like, no, okay, calm down.
nah,
Yeah.
don't worry about that. I mean, I've been doing the lead NP now for 6 years and
Yeah.
I, th- I think I might have heard from one NP in 6 years who got sued,
Yeah.
you know, a malpractice lawsuit over one of these niche things.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't even directly associated with her. She was just named in the lawsuit based off of something the primary care doctor was doing or something.
Okay.
So like, yeah, these things are pretty low liability. I wouldn't worry about it. And plus you have malpractice at the end of the day to cover you. So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Appreciate everything you do for, future
All right.
NPs and NPs and
All right. You're welcome. Hey, holler back at me in 6 or 7 months and maybe we'll do a follow up and see how things are going.
yeah. Yeah, that sounds awesome.
All right.
Okay. Thanks,
Take
Justin.
care. All right. Bye. I hope everyone enjoyed the episode with Abby. You know, she's just a baby NP, right? She hasn't even graduated NP school. 28 years old and wants to start her own practice. And I say good for her. I don't think it's necessary to have a lot of experience if you want to open up one of these little niche practices. I mean, these clinical skills aren't that difficult. You know, I think a lot of primary care, acute care, you know, working in the emergency department is a lot harder than doing some hormone replacement therapy or some weight loss. And so I think that for any new grad NP out there, or even an RN that's watching this that might be interested in starting their own practice, or even if you're an NP who has some experience, I think that as long as you understand how to read lab work predominantly, okay, and you understand what sick is and what sick isn't, and if you understand when to punt and when to keep, as long as you have those three things there, you should be okay starting a business, because having your own practice really isn't that difficult. The majority of your patients in a cash-based practice are going to be relatively healthy in nature, okay? You know, starting a primary care practice that accepts insurance, Medicaid patients, Medicare patients, people who come in as train wrecks, for example, is that a good idea right out of NP school? Probably not. I mean, you really do need 3 or 4 years of experience, you know, in a primary care practice if you're, if that's what you're going to do. Or, working in the ER independently right out of school, probably not a great idea. But these little niche practices, these alternative medical skills, weight loss, hormone replacement therapy, IV infusion, etc., these things really aren't that difficult. And so as long as you have a good head to yourself, a good clinical sense, then I think it's going to be okay to start a practice pretty much right out of school if you want to. And I think she's going to be okay. She sounds like she's pretty smart. She's done home health. She has some experience, so she should be okay. So, all right. Hope everyone enjoys this episode. Talk to you guys later. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the show. Quick legal disclaimer. The content of this podcast is meant for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be used as legal, financial, medical, regulatory, or practice-specific advice. For information pertaining to your specific legal, financial, medical, or practice-specific needs, please be sure to consult with your lawyer, CPA, medical director, and or your state's practice laws and the most up-to-date clinical guidelines. As always, do your due diligence when it comes to any information found online and in podcast. The content in this podcast is copyrighted by Galaxy Medical Southwest 2023 and cannot be duplicated, rebroadcasted, or reproduced without our written permission.